Hello guys, and welcome back to another video here on my channel. Before we get into today's video, I'd just like to remind you that if you like the content that you see here, to give this video a big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and make sure that the notification bell is on so that you get notified when a new video is uploaded. Also, you are free to comment anything down below that you would like me to discuss on these Monday episodes or any of your thoughts on today's episode. And with all of that said, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so you probably read the title and you kind of have an idea what this video is about, or maybe you don't, I don't know. Basically, I'm posing a question today. Is your diet making you depressed? And no, I don't mean I'm on a diet where I literally eat 2 carrots a day and I'm depressed, because that would make literally anyone depressed. I'm talking about what we are going to refer to as the modern diet, that we as basically the modern people have adopted over the last couple of decades, as you know, fast foods and those types of things have evolved and become bigger, quicker, easier to obtain. And this is not a video to shame anyone if you eat fast food, okay? We all do it. Sometimes it's just convenient, it's just easy, you just do not have the time to cook. I understand. I eat fast food sometimes, I'm sure you do. But to talk about more of the actual nutrients that are or are not in these foods and what the effect of this can have on our mental health. Because mental health, as you know, is something that I talk about a lot on these episodes, because I feel like it's a very important topic, especially for our generation, as we have seen depression and anxiety numbers skyrocket among our generation, and obviously previous generations as well, but it's really started to increase in our generation, and it's very concerning, and I really think we need to discuss and make sure we get solutions for this issue. Now, obviously, diet isn't the only contributing factor to depression and anxiety, but if it's one of the factors, I feel like it's something that we do need to look at and discuss. So there are a couple of things that I would like to talk about. First, I would like to talk about the effects that these junk foods or fast foods have. And then I would like to discuss the sort of modern diet and nutrients that are lacking in these diets. So let's start with the effects of kind of these junk foods and fast foods that we are kind of now including in our day-to-day diets as kind of a diet staple, if you want to call it that. And when I refer to diet, I don't mean like a diet where you eat like 3 things in a day. I'm talking about like a diet as in your daily diet, what you eat in a day. Okay, so just before we get into all of this, I did do some research. Obviously, there are a lot of papers and things out there that you can go read yourself if you are interested. I will list these sources in the description box for those of you watching on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, feel free to check out the YouTube channel so that you can get the links if you really want to go check that out, but I will be putting them in there. So there are a couple of things relating to junk foods, over-processed foods even, that have a negative effect on your body. Now, I'm pretty sure you think you know what I'm going to say, high caloric things and fats and all those things. Sure, those things are a problem, but the thing is that these fast foods kind of cause, I don't want to say fast foods because it's not just fast foods, okay? It's kind of junk food. I think junk food is a more apt description of what I mean, because it's not just the fast foods that you get at KFC or McDonald's. It's even things that you can buy in the shops that are overly processed and things like that. They can kind of cause inflammation in the body, right? And even the brain cells. And we know the brain, obviously, where our mental health is concerned, that is really important. And a study found that this can actually increase the risk of depression by 40%. Sorry if for the YouTube viewers, if I'm looking off camera a bit, I just have my computer open so that I state the facts. I don't want to say anything that is untrue, so I'm just reading to make sure that I state the fact. So the inflammation it causes can actually increase the risk of getting depression. And now I'm just going a bit off track. I did study science, genetics and physiology in university, but I'm not in any way implying that makes me an expert, but I'm kind of just using my logical reasoning here. Inflammation is a response from your immune system. It's a immune response when you're injured or something, or you're ill. Inflammation occurs to help quicken the healing. So if inflammation is caused by these things, then and your immune system is functioning normally, meaning that you don't have like an autoimmune disease or an overactive immune system. If your immune system is functioning normally and an inflammatory response is part of your immune system, then that must mean something is going wrong, and that's why your body is reacting with inflammation. So that must immediately tell you that it's not good, or your body doesn't want it there. That is why the inflammation happens. That is just my reasoning, but I may be wrong. But I just, if I think about it logically, that is kind of where I'm headed. So that is the first thing. Then there's another thing, and this has been a really big discussion over the last couple of years. I'm probably sure you've seen on Instagram, Facebook, gut health. People have really started talking about gut health, making sure your gut is healthy. And yeah, you can think about it in terms of digestion and all of that, which also is important. But there is actually a nerve called the vagus nerve that links our guts and our brain. So our guts and our brain is physically linked with this nerve, which means the gut is going to have some sort of impact on your brain. This vagus nerve makes it the brain and the gut able to send messages to the other. So the gut can influence emotional behavior in the brain, and the brain can also alter the bacteria that lives in the gut. Now, in your gut, you obviously have a lot of bacteria, but it's the healthy bacteria that helps you to kind of digest foods. That is why people have been pushing probiotics, and they tell you to eat certain foods that are high in probiotics, because it enhances these healthy bacteria that helps you digest food. Whereas unhealthier foods, like we are going to discuss, damages this bacteria and kind of gets rid of the good bacteria that's in your digestive system. And this is a bad thing, because these healthy bacteria are actually responsible for a very big portion of the serotonin release in our bodies. Now, serotonin is a neurotransmitter, which is a big word, I know. It's just basically a chemical messenger that helps your neurons send message to each other. It's also kind of the happy hormone or the calming hormone to keep you calm. And when this healthy bacteria is damaged, your serotonin levels will decrease, which means you will not be able to stay calm. Your sleeping may be affected, and depression may ensue because of lower serotonin levels. And just because your gut is unhealthy, it's kind of weird to think about this link. You wouldn't actually put it together if you think about it, your gut and depression, but it's clear that there is a link, because obviously there's the vagus nerve that connects the two. So obviously they're able to communicate, and then the fact that this healthy bacteria actually secretes serotonin, actually is responsible for a very large portion of the production of serotonin in your body, kind of makes sense that if your gut is unhealthy, it could really have a dire effect on your mental health, depression, those sorts of things. Now, I know these are a lot of scientific terms, I get it, but it's important to understand, and I really wanted to talk about this because, like I said, I want us to start looking into why the depression rate for our generation is so high. Why is the anxiety level so high? And I've discussed in previous episodes things like increased pressure to perform, to do something new, how that can contribute. But we also need to look at these other factors, and that is why I really wanted to do this episode today, because I feel like we need to look into all avenues, and if there's a place where we can start actually making changes to better our mental health, then I think we should really look into it. Okay, Okay, so that is basically the effects that I wanted to discuss as with regards to junk food, processed foods. And now I just want to kind of get into nutrient deficits, okay? And the actual reason that I got into this whole topic to begin with is at the beginning of the year, or like end of last year, beginning of this year, I was feeling really weird. I was tired all the time despite getting enough sleep. I was lethargic, I was moody, like all of the time. I didn't want to do anything. At first I thought I was just burned out because I graduated at the end of last year, so I felt like maybe my body was just tired, but it didn't go away. So I went to the doctor, and obviously she thought depression because the symptoms were very similar. And before she told me, before we consider antidepressants, let's just perhaps see if supplementing your diet with certain vitamins will actually help enhance your mood, because these can also be symptoms of nutrient deficits or vitamin deficits. And she put me on just it's a very natural like multivitamin that has all of the necessary vitamins, because she was unsure if I would get adequate amount in my diet. And it changed so many things. Now, I'm not saying that multivitamins is the end all be all for depression. Now I can't get the word treatment, depression treatment. I'm sure it's not the only thing that can be wrong, but for me, in my case, that was the problem. I wasn't getting in enough vitamins or the correct vitamins. Now, two vitamins that I really want to focus on, because I feel like these are the ones that we struggle with the most. Obviously, there are other vitamins that you need to make sure you get enough of, but there are two vitamins specifically that my doctor mentioned and that I wanted to discuss, because I think it's the ones that we are going to struggle with the most to get into our systems. Now, the first vitamin is vitamin B12, which obviously I'm sure a lot of you have heard of vitamin B12. It's quite common. Now, the thing with vitamin B12 is it is so necessary for us to get this into our systems with diet, because it's not actually made in our bodies. Our bodies do not actually make vitamin B12, despite it being so important in our bodies. Now, vitamin B12 has a lot of functions, okay? It's not just to do with your brain function. It has a lot of other functions, bone growth, all of those things. But like I said, the links are below if you want to go read on all of that. But I just want to focus on the vitamin B12 and how it affects mood. Now, they say that one of the side effects of a vitamin B12 deficiency is depression, memory loss, or behavioral changes. So that kind of makes you think. Now, vitamin B12, like I mentioned, is not created in our bodies, which means we need to take it in with our diets, or then with, alternatively, a supplement. The reason I think that it's not, we don't get it in with our diets is because, like I said, we eat the processed foods, which already have dire effects, but on top of it having dire effects on our gut health and on our bodies with the inflammation, it also is lacking these nutrients. Now, some of the sources of vitamin B12, you can go Google this. I will put a picture up. It's things like beef, liver, chicken, fish, low-fat milk, yogurt, cheese, and eggs. So if you're a vegan, you're probably shaking to like, I can't really eat any of these things, which in that case, I think a multivitamin, a natural multivitamin would probably be your best option. But can you see that you may think that I'm eating chicken, like I eat like a McDonald's or KFC every now and again, and sure, that's chicken, but if you think about all the negative effects of the way that it's cooked that we just discussed, the inflammation and the effects on your gut health, that little bit of chicken that you're getting in is not going to be able to counterbalance it, and it may not even have enough vitamin B12 in to make a decent difference. Whereas if you eat just clean cooked chicken with a bit of like a sauce or something, you may get more of that nutrients, okay? And like I mentioned, if you're a vegan and you can't actually eat any of these meat or dairy products, then a multivitamin supplement would probably be the best option. But can you see why I say that with the modern diet, we're not getting in these nutrients? Because these are not really the things that we eat. And like I said, you can go Google all of the food sources for vitamin B12. I did mention a couple, but I'm sure there are a lot more. But it's not something that's very staple in our modern diet because we want quick, easy, and cheap, which I can understand the cheap part, being broke myself. Okay, I get it. But this is something that we really need to start looking at very seriously. And then the second one that I really want to discuss, and this is the one that I actually think is the most difficult and the most linked to increased depression rates in our generation, is vitamin D deficiency. Now, most of you probably know vitamin D as the sunshine vitamin. You say getting some rays, getting some vitamin D is very healthy. And that is true. Vitamin D is very healthy. Obviously, you don't want to sit in the sun long enough to get heat stroke. But let's think about this for a moment. Vitamin D deficiency also can be linked to depression. Obviously, vitamin D has a lot of other functions like calcium absorption, but it's also linked to mood changes and depression if you do not get enough. Now, not getting enough vitamin D is obviously a problem. And consider this, our generation grew up with the technological boom. Like, we got cell phones and televisions and computers, which means our entertainment moved from playing outside to being inside. Children in previous generations would get sunshine because they would be playing outside. Okay, even jobs moved from like working on a farm to an office, which I'm not diminishing people who work in an office. Obviously, the work done in an office is still important, but think about the jobs moved from outside to inside. Entertainment, playing outside, moved inside. Computers, phones, tablets, those types of things. So you're already decreasing the amount of time you spend outside because you're no longer in the sunshine. You're no longer actually getting that vitamin D because most of your time is spent indoors. Okay, and then on top of that, a lot of us were in lockdown for over a year, which we were basically forced to spend time inside of our house because of the global situation. So that is already another factor. So our entertainment moved inside. We no longer work outside. Well, some of us still do, but most of us will get, not me because I'm still unemployed, but that's a discussion for another day. Most of us will get an office job where we work inside for about 8 hours in a day. And can you understand why a vitamin D deficiency is so high in our generation and why that is linked to the higher depression rates in our generation? And also, once again, we don't really eat the food sources either at all or enough for our diet to supplement this vitamin in if we don't have time to go outside. So some sources, once again, you can look up more, is like oily fish, red meat, liver, and egg yolks, which once again, if you're a vegan, you might want to consider a multivitamin supplement. But like I said, these foods, and some people might say, but cake has eggs in it. Yeah, cakes also have refined sugar and things that are processed that, like I said, negatively affect your gut health. But eggs in cake is processed. Think about it, because it is going through a process, whereas a hard-boiled egg was just cooked and it's still just the egg. But the egg in the cake is not really an egg with the nutrients anymore all that much. So can you understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying don't eat cake. If it's your birthday and you want cake, eat cake. That's not what I'm saying. But can you understand why I'm saying that our modern diet that we, most of us follow, because it's quick, easy, and cheap, doesn't really supply us with the nutrients that we need. Not even mentioning the negative side effects on your gut and the inflammation that I mentioned earlier. The nutrients just isn't there. And that is what's leading, well, it's one of the causes of the increased rates of depression in our generation. We're not going outside anymore. We work in offices. We don't work on like outside anymore. We don't play outside anymore as much because all our entertainment is inside. Okay, so vitamin D and vitamin B12 is not the only vitamins that you need, obviously, but I felt like because vitamin B12 isn't produced in our bodies, and it is our responsibility to put it into our body, and we're not clearly doing that because we don't eat the things that are suggested. And vitamin D, obviously, we are not outside as much anymore. We were in lockdowns, we work inside, and we clearly don't really eat the foods that are suggested. Is it any wonder that rates of depression are going up? Despite all the other factors that I've discussed, this is also a contributing factor. The thing is, this is a factor that we can control and can change. This is a factor that we can actually change and, make a change in how we eat, how we spend our time, maybe trying to spend more time outdoors, maybe changing out certain foods that we eat, can actually help your mental health. Because a lot of people think when I talk about diet, she's going to talk about like physical health and how it affects your physical health. Sure, it does. But I really want to discuss our mental health. And if it's affecting your mental health as well, don't you think it's time to think about maybe just making some changes and maybe just thinking about your mental health? Because you don't want to walk around depressed. I don't think a lot of people want to walk around depressed. And if this is a small change you can make to help increase your mental health, to help increase your mental state, shouldn't we all do this? And I'm talking to myself here as well. I know how easy it is to just not do it, but then you can't really complain that you're depressed, because then you're not willing to make the change. Now, like I've mentioned 400 times, this is not the only aspect that causes depression, but it is a contributing factor. And if it's a factor we can change, why don't we? Okay guys, that is my speech for today. Like I said, if you want to check out any of the sources that I used, it is in the description box below. And I'm gonna stop talking right now. This is the end of the video. You're probably sighing a sigh of relief, but if you stay till the end, thank goodness. Like, thank you. That means so much to me. Like, wow. But I will see you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful day.